Marty, good morning. Great to have you on the show, my friend.
Good morning. How are you doing, sir?
Doing all right. I wanted to do this interview with you. I always like to catch up with you during the Unified season or when the Unified is fresh in folks' minds. And I'm just going to go ahead and ask now that you've played the LA Galaxy. So the 2024 season, how was it from the head coach's perspective about everything that happened with the Unified team?
It's been a great season so far. We've got 2 wins under our belt, and the vast majority of all our games have been our players, which has been absolutely wonderful. Seeing the players grow in their soccer knowledge, their skills, all those things have been a great thing this year so far. And we're certainly looking forward to our next match, which I think is in about 2 weeks against Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be playing them for a second time. So far, so good.
When it comes to, for those that don't know, and literally I want this to be part update, part education. For those that might hear about the Unified team, may not know a whole lot about the Unified team, I'd like to educate folks as a part of our walk this morning. So for those that may just hear about the Unified team and may not know a whole lot about the Unified team itself, what exactly is the Unified squad with Atlanta United?
So the Unified Squad is a Special Olympics team that not each, but the majority of all the MLS teams have. It is half players with intellectual disabilities and half partners. And you're there for promotion of inclusion, promotion of soccer, huge learning for all the kids involved, players, partners, athletes. They're learning skills about life skills on how to travel. They're learning skills on how to present themselves in interviews exactly like we're doing right here. They're doing skills for handling their own money, being without their parents. It's just a wonderful program that MLS is doing, and I certainly hope it continues in the future. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't, but it impacts a huge amount of people and lives.
Because I know that there are more and more franchises that are investing their time in having unified squads. How did you get engaged in the Atlanta United version of the unified squad?
I got engaged probably 6 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
The team that I ran a group called North Fulton United,
Mm-hmm.
and we were one of the largest unified soccer teams here, probably in Georgia, maybe even in the Southeast. And they were looking for a team to play. And so they invited us up to the training grounds, which I'd never been to at that time. So, which is anyone who gets a chance to do it, I advise you to go do it. It's a wonderful facility. And that's how it kind of started. We had a number of kids who were able to make the team, and one thing after another, and here I am almost 5 years later. I am the head coach.
So when you got involved on the Atlanta United side of things, what has it been like for you to see the team itself grow and evolve to where it is now, where you're traveling across the country, you're having all these new experiences, playing other unified squads? What's it been like to you to see it grow?
Oh, it's unbelievable, because when we first started, the team was struggling to get some ties, some wins. They were very local, and thanks to Lena,
Mm-hmm.
she's been a huge promoter of this program. She's the reason why we get to go to LA. We get to go to Dallas and New York City.
Mm-hmm.
But also to see how much the kids' skills have really improved. If you've watched our games from 5 years ago, the skill of our players has it's unbelievably different. And that's one of the most exciting things to see over the last 5 years.
And this is something where you have tryouts, and I mean there are folks that come in to try out to be a part of this club. And I imagine that over time the numbers in the tryouts and those that want to be involved and engaged in the program, they've grown just as exponentially. True.
Oh yes, yeah. That was one of the first things that I did is when I came coach is that we had open tryouts. Anybody in the state of Georgia who has a disability that can be approved by Special Olympics can come and try out. The partners, the same thing goes with the partners. Anyone in the state of Georgia can come and try out. So we went from probably 25 people trying out, and in years past we've had over 100. So that's a big change in just a few years.
I was going to say, what's it like having 100 athletes chasing after roster spots? I mean, that sounds it's cool on a bunch of different levels, but what's it like for you to have these numbers increasing to where you're talking about 100 athletes?
The one really good part is not just me.
Yeah.
There is 6 coaches there that are evaluating 3 different stations all at the same time. So they're each doing their part. Everyone's doing an evaluation of each player, so that if I or another coach misses somebody, it's never going to get all the way to the end with 6 of us there. We've improved the tryout every year. We've changed the drills, so it's a little bit different. Also, the evaluation process, so that we make it fair. These kids, they realize every year they have to make and try out and get their spot back. There's no guarantees. So that's a lot of pressure, and especially with kids with intellectual disabilities, that's a big learning experience. Something really wonderful that happened is one person who did not make the team as a player got cut, came back, worked hard on the off season, and made it the next year. I mean, what more can you ask for in learning in life than something along that line? So that was great.
Yeah, and there's, I mean, for those that may not know, there's an all-star component that's attached to this as well, where Atlanta United has had all-stars tapped on the shoulder to be a part of MLS All-Star Week, and so the Unified have their own all-star component in this as well. And I mean, it's I would imagine that it's humbling on a bunch of different levels that you have that kind of recognition where you have unified engagement in an MLS All-Star capacity too.
It is. That experience is really, it's interesting because they treat them like their first team players. Not that Atlanta United doesn't, and they do, but I mean, it's great. They have all the media people come. They stay at the same hotel. They do a bunch of the media events with the MLS players, and they get to travel to a great destination, see all the events, where some of the other MLS teams, they don't have the opportunities, thanks to Atlanta United, to maybe travel as far as we do and do those kind of things. So, I mean, Atlanta United, they probably do it the best in the league, in my opinion. I've talked to a number of other coaches throughout my few years doing this now. So, we're lucky that Atlanta takes the responsibility and really moves forward with the program.
Do you have conversations with the other unified coaches inside Major League Soccer? Do you guys compare notes about how programs are being run, your athletes, these kinds of things?
I do. Once we've played, I still keep in contact with the coaches from Charlotte, from Miami, and also New York. Mm-hmm. So I've talked to them periodically, and especially when we have a match coming up, we always get together. We always have an event the night before where the players and partners and coaches from both teams do something. So right there is a time that we spend to meet, talk, compare notes, what works for you, how are you doing it, all those things. And when I was lucky enough to go to All-Stars, I met a whole new slew of people, one person from each one of the teams, not necessarily coaches, but people who were in the organization. So I learned a ton during that last year.
Marty Jelleme, the head coach of the Atlanta United Unified. Knew I was going to get tongue or twist. The Atlanta United Unified squad hanging out with us here on the morning show. I have been blessed enough to be able to call some of the matches. Joe Freihofer, Jason, and myself, Madison Cruz. We've all had the opportunity to call some of the matches, and we've been fortunate enough to go on the road and call the matches as well. The last one that I was a part of was the matchup at Red Bull, where it was you have the experience of, as a part of the tour, they were having the bowling alley night, and they went to go and just have a night with themselves at a bowling alley where it was bowling and pizza, and you just kind of got to chill a little bit. But it was a part of a sightseeing larger thing where you're kind of there in New Jersey and you're seeing Hoboken and Newark and bowling and all these kinds of things. What's it like to see these athletes shine outside of Atlanta, and they get to represent Atlanta and Atlanta United the way that they do, and to have them see things that they may not have had the chance to experience otherwise in these different places, whether it's Charlotte or LA or New York? What's it like to see them shine outside of Atlanta?
And I would like to say give LA Galaxy a shout out. Their event was a beach outing where we played volley, which of course LA, what else are you going to do, right?
Right.
But it was a beach outing, which was wonderful because with that, you really were able to intermix the kids. And it was, I won't call it a competition, but it was a friendly competition before the competition where they were all intermingled.
Yeah.
So it wasn't Atlanta versus LA. It was half and half for every team, which is probably one of the best pre-outings that we've had because we were able to really move everybody around, and it was much more interactive between the teams. You know, sometimes bowling, you don't leave your lanes,
Right.
where that volleyball was wonderful. But the dinners are always great because we always make sure all the kids move around and meet, and listening to them talk is always kind of fun and interesting because the things that they talk about are stuff that you would never think about. They'll be talking about movies. They were talking about accents. That's a funny one. Like, you sound different because, you know, similar to Europe, let's say, the United States, if you're from the South versus the North versus the West,
Right.
it's kind of the same language, but not really.
Right.
So it's a neat thing listening to them kind of work their way through that. And that's a big learning experience, I think, to the athletes, that even though they're across the country, they sound different. They're going through almost the same things that they're going through here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So it's a great thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, you have the just because you might be in your own part of geography, but there are other folks in other parts of the country that are going through the same things that you are, and to have that kind of peer relationship where you can just kind of sit down, chew the fat a little bit, and sit there, go, well, yeah, I'm having this problem with math. Well, I am too. It's like these kinds of things where you can have shared experiences and continue to grow and probably come out of it with new and more friends than you would have had. Because I imagine that the players, they got everybody's deets, I think, as the kids say. They're dialing each other up, I would imagine, and the friendships stay after the matches. Yeah,
they do. There are probably, after each match, I bet you there's probably 4 or 5 connections that stay forever.
Mm-hmm.
I know that like a couple of our partners have connections with a couple of other players on other teams, and I know for sure that a number of players have connections with players from other teams that 2 years later they're still group texting and all that kind of stuff. And that's a really neat part that you wouldn't see if you didn't have this program.
So then I'm going to have you stand on a box for a moment. I'm going to give you a megaphone. For a Major League Soccer franchise that does not have a unified team, that does not have a unified connection, what would you say on that soapbox with that megaphone to these other clubs to go, you need to go down this road, you need to invest in unified athletics?
No, I definitely think you have to. Even if you start out playing 5v5, like Atlanta, we've progressed from a 5v5. Now we're playing 11v11, and you've seen that progression. You've been around long enough. Our first few years, we couldn't field the team that would be quality enough to play 11v11, which we can now.
Yeah.
The community engagement is huge. You've seen the supporters. The supporters love the program, and if you want to give your group of supporters and fans someone to cheer about in your bad years, good years, that bring joy and all those things, this is the group that you need to have. And anybody I ever talked to, once they've seen a match, they're sold. They come back, they support. I think we're getting more and more people staying for the games. I think we might have been up to maybe 4,000 maybe that probably stayed at the last game.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping in Nashville we're going to have even more. But it's just a great community relations. And if you don't have a team, you need to get one.
What have you and the coaching staff learned about yourselves, not just as coaches, but as individuals being a part of this experience?
Compassion, for sure. You see the struggles that some families have that have kids with disabilities that, they live it every day.
Mm-hmm.
I live it, I don't know, how many hours a week, whatever. They're in it every day. And when you see the growth that the kids have, shouldn't say kids, athletes, sorry, see that the athletes grow, it's huge. And the parents on how much they really have to work at it. Some struggle, some don't, but it's a humbling experience when you see what they have to do on a day-to-day basis.
For someone who wants to get involved, wants to maybe encourage their athlete to try and go down this road, hit the promo for me. How can folks become more engaged, more involved, more aware about what's going on with the Unified team?
I would say, well, first is join a Special Olympics group, your local Special Olympics group, to kind of get the hang of it.
Yep.
You've got groups like Cobb County, Hall County, North Fulton United, where they practice probably every week. You'll be able to see what it's all about, experience the same thing that I experience in the growth of kids, the joy that they have, the excitement that they have, whether they're win or losing. So that would be my first step. Then the second step would be watch out. We promote the tryouts every year through the Atlanta United emails and things on that lines. It goes through Special Olympics, so you can join that way. So I would say your local group is probably the biggest and best way to feel what we feel and experience the great things that program brings.
All right, next matchup is Nashville. It's a rival. We know about Atlanta and Nashville. We know how much of a rival game this is. What's the training regiment like? What are you running through their paces? You giving them chocolate milk when it's all over? You getting ready for this Nashville match? What's going on, Marty? We got to know.
They're doing a lot of running. I'll tell you that much. That is the one thing we stress is fitness. We make the kids, the athletes, practice outside of our Mondays. They have a running regimen every week. They have to do so much. The biggest thing our athletes are working on is finishing. That is our Achilles heel. So we've got all these finishing drills that we're running them through, and then we'll do some scrimmaging to get ready because they've only got 2 more practices before the next match.
And we are looking forward to it. Thank you for taking time out of the real world and dropping by and talking about Atlanta United Unified. It's a conversation that I've wanted to have with you for quite some time during this season. Glad that we've had the chance to talk about it. Glad to talk about LA and All-Star and all these kinds of things. Marty, it's great to catch up with you, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Fantastic. Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
As always, Marty Jelleme, the head coach of Atlanta United Unified. And so for those of you that go to going to the Nashville match, stay. When the match is over, you'll see Brad Gazan out there. Brad has been a fantastic mentor, friend, guide for the Atlanta United Unified team. It's been really cool to see how the first team players are there and they get to engage and they get to share their wisdom and their friendship with what's going on with the Atlanta United Unified squad. Thanks to Chris Ramondi, Lena Saul, everybody there with Atlanta United. And thanks to Marty for taking time out of the real world to catch up with us on a Tuesday as they're getting ready for that matchup against Nashville. We know what that means. Rivalry. And as Nick says, love me some unified matches. Yes, stay. Absolutely. Stay. Watch the unified match. Yell your head off. And show the unified squad your support because the unified all-star game, it was shown on MLS Soccer's social media. You got to see a couple of Atlanta United players shine in that match as well. And to see the announcements. And in the past, it's been really cool with home games where you'll have a unified home match, and you would get the announcement of the unified players getting sent to All-Star on the Halo board. When you get to see your announcement of going to an All-Star game on the Halo board at Mercedes-Benz, it's a cool moment. So, the reverse fixture in Nashville was a blast. You've got the Nashville match coming up. And as Nick says, stay.